Asterisk, the wind whistled through broken fences and past the ragged cloth nailed over the window panes. It was the kind of wind that didn't blow for weather, but for ghosts. And tonight, it was thick with them. Asterisk, the prairie stretched out wide and aching under a sky that held the last ember of dusk. Beneath it stood a crooked house, paint peeled, porch sagged, chimney leaning like an old man's spine. Inside, the silence hung heavier than the air. A tin cup sat untouched beside a cracked plate. Dust hovered in the golden lamplight. Asterisk, John Tallow sat at the table, his elbows on the wood, hands clasped like a prayer he'd long forgotten how to say. He hadn't spoken aloud in 3 days. He hadn't laughed in 3 years. His wife's shawl still hung on the peg by the door, faded blue. Every morning he almost touched it. Every evening he left it there. Asterisk, the war had taken many things, but it was the things it left behind that hurt more. The silence, the empty crib. The ache in his knees that told him winter would outlive them all. And then came the knock, soft, hesitant, like a question. Asterisk, he didn't move at first. Just stared at the door, waiting for it to stop. When it didn't, he stood. The floor creaked under his weight. He reached for the rifle, paused, then left it behind. Some ghosts needed a different kind of handling. Asterisk, when he opened the door, the wind pushed through like a widow wailing. And there they were. Asterisk, 2 girls, barefoot, dirty. One held a torn satchel. The other clutched a stuffed rabbit by the ear. Their cheeks were raw from wind, eyes wide from fear or cold, maybe both. The older one, no more than 8, stepped forward. "Our mama just died," she said. She didn't cry when she said it. Her lips barely moved, but her eyes said everything. Behind them, nothing but prairie, no wagon, no horse. Just wind and sky. Asterisk, can we stay, just one day? The younger girl asked. Asterisk, John knelt slowly, the wood groaning beneath his knees. His hand shook as he brushed a strand of hair from the younger girl's face. He looked at them like a man seeing stars after. "Years underground. Asterisk, you can stay forever," he whispered. Asterisk, that night. He dug a grave with his bare hands. Asterisk, the shovel lay unused by the barn, but something about this, it didn't feel like a stranger's work. The frozen earth cracked open like it had been waiting. The girls didn't speak. They stood behind the barn, arms wrapped around each other, watching the fire crackle in the house window. Asterisk, he found her body 100 yards out, curled near a broken tree. Rigid from the cold, she had no shoes. Just a stitched bag by her side with a comb, a page torn from a Bible, and a letter. The name at the bottom read, Letty Winslow. John didn't read the letter until her body was in the ground. The words were jagged, rushed, written in pencil, smeared with what looked like blood or rain. Asterisk, if you find this, I couldn't go further. They're after me, after her. Her real name's not Ellie, and it ain't mine either. Keep them safe, if you have any goodness left in you, please. Don't let Wheeler find them. Asterisk, he folded the paper once, then again, and tucked it into the stove. But he didn't burn it. Asterisk, by morning, the girls were still asleep, curled together in the corner of the room like pups against the cold. He'd stoked the fire till the logs glowed red. He didn't sleep, he watched, like the earth might shift under them again. Asterisk, Nora, the older one, opened her eyes first. She didn't ask where her mother was buried. She already knew. Asterisk, he made them cornbread, burnt one side, undercooked the other. They ate every bite without complaint. Ellie smiled when he poured syrup over it, just a drop, but it lit her up like summer. Asterisk, he didn't ask questions. They didn't give answers. They simply were. Asterisk, that afternoon, he went to the barn to fix the roof. Winter had clawed through the boards again, and a storm was riding in from the west. He paused only once, when he saw Nora, barefoot, walking behind the house to kneel beside a mound of dirt. She didn't cry. She laid a pinnacone on the grave and whispered something only the wind could hear. Asterisk, that night. The storm hit. Asterisk, he patched what he could, but the cold pushed through every crack. The girls huddled near the fire. Ellie whispered a song in a language he didn't know, high and soft. Like the lullabies his wife used to hum when she still had hope. He pulled the quilt from his own bed and wrapped it around them, sat by the hearth. He stared into the flames. Long after they fell asleep. The letter sat heavy in his coat pocket. Outside, snow fell sideways. The sky roared. Trees bent like old men. And in that moment he felt it, not fear, not grief, but a strange warmth, not from the fire. From their breathing. From the way they trusted him enough to sleep. The next morning he found the blood. A smear on the back fence. A tuft of horsehair snagged on the nail. Someone had passed through. He followed the tracks into the snow. Hoofprints, fresh, deep, headed east, and fast. He didn't go far. Just enough to see what kind of trouble might be on their heels. Then he turned back. The letter burned hotter in his coat. That evening, as the sky turned slate gray, he finally spoke. I don't know who's after you. He said to no one in particular, but they'll have to come through me. The girls didn't respond. Ellie played with her rabbit. Nora looked at him, long and slow, and nodded once. Not as a child, but as someone who'd already seen too much of the world. He spent the next days preparing, sharpened his tools, fortified the cellar, fixed the hinges on the barn, and for the first time in years he rebuilt the fence line, not just to keep something out, but maybe to keep something in. The cold deepened. Snow drifted up against the windowsills, swallowing the porch steps and half the fence John had spent days mending. Ice grew on the inside of the glass like creeping frostbite. In the mornings, it took an hour just to feel his fingers again, but the girls didn't complain. They watched the fire, they shared the same cup of warm milk. They waited for something neither of them could name. John moved differently now. His silence wasn't hollow like before, it carried weight. Each chore chopping wood, feeding the goat, boiling water, felt like a vow. He didn't say much, but the girls started mirroring him. Nora rose before dawn. Ellie swept the hearth with a willow branch. They never asked about their mother again. And he never forced them to. One night. A blizzard hit. The kind that didn't howl, it pressed, thick, suffocating. The roof groaned like it might cave. Snow came sideways through the broken boards in the barn, burying the feed bags, hissing. Against the rusted plow. John stayed up through the night, shifting blankets, stuffing old flour sacks into cracks in the wall. At one point, Ellie sat bolt upright from sleep and said, "It's her singing again." But there was no voice. Only wind. He didn't tell her otherwise. He just tucked the quilt tighter and placed his hand gently over hers. She didn't move it. By morning, the storm had buried the world in white silence. The kind of silence that comes after something breaks. John found Nora outside, barefoot again, standing in the snow in her nightgown. Her feet were turning red, but she stared at the horizon like she was listening. "They'll find us," she whispered. "Even out here?" He said nothing. Just picked her up and carried her back inside, arms stiff as iron. He didn't scold her. Just wrapped her feet in rags, lit another log, and handed her a tin of honey biscuits. He watched her bite one without. Blinking, like chewing, was just something the living did. That evening a figure appeared in the storm, no sound. Just a shape, slow and staggering. The girls huddled close, peering through the frosted window. John reached for his rifle. Heart pounding, but the figure didn't approach the house. It went to the barn. He watched from the porch, boots sinking in snow. The wind lashed at his coat, but he stood still, eyes fixed on the figure. It was a woman, wrapped in a bearskin cloak. Her hair braided tight and dusted with snow, her face half covered, eyes sharp. She moved like someone used to moving, quietly, deliberate, slow. Listening to every creak in the wood. She didn't knock. She didn't call out. Just entered the barn and closed the door behind her. John stood there for a long time, the snow piling on his shoulders. Then he followed. Inside. The barn was dark except for a sliver of lantern light. The goats huddled. In the corner, too cold to protest. The woman was crouched near the saddle wall, unpacking something from a leather bag. Asterisk, she looked up when he entered. Said nothing. Asterisk, you wounded? He asked. She shook her head. Got a name? She didn't answer that either. He stepped closer. Letting the door creak behind him, asterisk, she finally spoke low, calm, scarred with smoke. The girls, they yours? Asterisk, not by blood. Asterisk, she stared at him for a moment, then nodded like that. Made him more trustworthy. I knew their mama, she said. He didn't ask how. He just waited. Asterisk, she helped me once. Hid me when no one else would, now it's my turn. Asterisk, she stood fully then, pulling the bearskin tighter around her shoulders. Her left hand shook slightly, old injury, maybe frostbite, but her eyes didn't. Shake. Asterisk, her name was Ada Greyhawk. Half Comanche, scout, once paid by the Union to find trails, read smoke, disappear. Now she was on the run. He didn't ask what for. But in the quiet, he heard what she didn't say. The price of kindness. The weight of loyalty. The kind of past that followed like wolves. Asterisk, that night. She stayed in the barn. Asterisk, in the morning. She was chopping wood with his axe before he was even up. Her swing was rough but precise. She didn't ask where to put it. Just stacked it neat. Beside the door. Asterisk, Ellie offered her a slice of dried apple. Ada took it with a nod, no smile. Asterisk, Nora didn't trust her. Not yet. But she watched her like someone watching fire, curious, cautious, waiting to see if it would burn or warm. Asterisk, over the next week, Ada became part of the rhythm. Quiet hands, sharp eyes. She mended the roof, set traps in the snow. Taught Ellie how to twist rabbit wire with her small fingers. John never asked her to stay. She just didn't leave. Asterisk, one evening, as the sun bled behind the ridge, John caught Ada staring at the horizon. He stood beside her. Asterisk. They're not safe, she said softly. Wheeler's looking. Asterisk, he knew the name, from the letter. From stories whispered in saloons. Marshall Boone Wheeler, hired law. Traded badges for blood. Known for finding what shouldn't be found. Asterisk. What does he want? John asked. Asterisk. Not just me, the girls. Their mother had something. Maybe gold, maybe a secret. Doesn't matter. Wheeler wants it. Asterisk. John's jaw tensed. He stared at the barn, at the fence, at the small gravestone Nora carved with a broken knife. Mama. Asterisk. He thought about leaving, about packing the girls onto a wagon and heading north. But where would they go? What place was safe from men like Wheeler? That night he found something strange. A horse. Asterisk. No rider. Just the horse, black, foaming, lathered with sweat. Saddle twisted, one stirrup broken, a rifle still in the scabbard. A poster tucked into the saddlebag, half soaked in snow. Asterisk. He pulled it out, and the firelight flickered against the words, Wanted, Ada Greyhawk, dead or alive. $300 for capture. No questions asked. Asterisk. Accomplice. Unnamed woman with 2 minors. Suspected of theft, concealment, and murder. Asterisk. His hands shook as he turned it over. Scrawled on the back in a different ink were the words, Asterisk. Last seen heading north. Will be tracking. Tell no one. He burned the poster that night, but not before showing it to Ada. Asterisk. She didn't flinch. Just nodded. Asterisk. It was always going to end. Like this, she said. Asterisk. John didn't speak, but he understood now. The storm outside was nothing compared to the one coming. The girls would never survive it alone, and he didn't know if he could survive losing them. Asterisk. The storm came without warning. Asterisk. Not snow, not wind, dust, a pale cloud rolling over the horizon like smoke from a prairie fire, choking the sun, turning the afternoon into a funeral. John saw it from the ridge, watched it curl and stretch across the valley, slow and deliberate, like something alive. He knew what rode inside it. Asterisk. He told the girls to stay in the cellar. Gave them a satchel with jerky, blankets, and their mother's comb. Told Nora to keep Ellie quiet no matter what happened. Asterisk. Nora didn't cry. She just nodded, then climbed down into the dark without a word. Asterisk. Ada stood by the barn, her rifle resting against her thigh. The sling around her shoulder was blood-stained. She Hadn't stopped bleeding since last week, but she didn't mention it. She only said, "He's here." John didn't ask how she knew. It was in the dust, in the silence. In the way the crows had flown west hours before, he checked his shotgun, loaded the last of the shells. His hands trembled as he clicked the barrel shut, not from fear, from memory. He hadn't held a weapon in years, not since the war took more than it ever gave back. A single rider emerged first, black duster, wide-brimmed, hat, his horse covered in white dust, then three more. All dressed like death, rifles ready, faces hidden behind scarves and leather. Wheeler. He didn't yell, didn't threaten. He simply rode to the edge of the property, reined in, and sat, tall in the saddle. Behind him, the other three spread out, forming a quiet half-circle. No words, just posture. A trap already sprung. John stepped off the porch slowly, his boots crunching in the dirt. Wheeler raised a hand like a priest before a hanging. "Name's Boone Wheeler," he said, voice dry as bone. "I'm here for the Comanche Scout." "And the children?" John didn't blink. "You'll be leaving empty," he said. Wheeler chuckled. "That so?" Behind him, one of the men raised a rifle and pointed it at the barn. John's hand didn't move, but his eyes flicked once. Ada stepped into view. Her rifle was already up. The first shot cracked like thunder. One of Wheeler's men dropped. Before he could scream, blood blooming on his chest like a wildflower. The second gunman fired Wild Mist and was met with a burst from John's shotgun that threw him off his horse in a cloud of dirt and spit. The third ran, but Ada caught him in the leg. He screamed into the dust, writhing like a snake cut in half. Only Wheeler remained. He sat, still as stone, eyes burning through the grit. "You'll regret this," he said. John stepped closer. "I already regret everything else," he whispered. Wheeler drew fast. Faster than John remembered a man could move. But Ada was faster. Her bullet hit him just below the ribs. He didn't fall at first. Just stared down like the pain surprised him. Then his knees buckled, and he crumpled to the dirt like a paper man, breath gurgling into the dust. The silence afterward was deeper than before. John lowered his shotgun. His ears rang. His shoulder ached. Blood from Wheeler's last twitch stained the porch rail. Ada limped toward the house, one arm pressed to her ribs. She didn't speak, just leaned against the barn wall and slid down slowly, breathing hard. Inside the cellar, the girls hadn't made a sound. When John lifted the trapdoor, Nora looked up at him, eyes wide but dry. Ellie clutched her doll like it could stop bullets. "It's over," he said, but it wasn't, not really. 2 days passed before they buried the dead. The crows circled but didn't come down. John made crosses from oak but didn't mark names. The prairie would take care of what history wanted to forget. Ada stayed, not because she had to, but because she had nowhere else to go. And neither did they. The wound in her side never fully healed. Some nights she lay awake, eyes open, listening for hoofbeats that would never come. John built a second fence. Higher this time, tighter. Not to keep the world out, but to hold their small piece of it in. The girls grew quieter, stronger. Nora read from the Bible, scrapped their mother. Left. Ellie hummed lullabies to the chickens. Spring came slow, but it came. Wildflowers sprouted where the snow had crushed the earth. The roof stopped leaking. The goats fattened. The silence in the house was different now, softer, like a blanket. Instead of a hole, one morning, John sat on the porch, sharpening a tool that didn't need sharpening. Nora came up behind him, holding a folded paper. It was a drawing crude, scratched with coal but unmistakable. 4 figures, one tall man, one woman with braids. 2 girls, side by side. He didn't say anything. Just held it like it might fall apart in his hands. Beside the grave, Nora placed another wooden sign. It didn't say Mama this time. It said home, that evening. John lit a fire outside. They all sat around it, him, Ada, Ellie, Nora wrapped in one heavy quilt. Listening to the wind carry nothing but stars. No promises were made, none were needed. The war had taken his heart. But two girls knocked on his door and gave it back. Asterisk.